Hello viewers, Super GT here. Thank you for joining me for another video. This one is the return of the Manufacturers series. So you may remember, if you can cast your mind back a couple of weeks, we drove for Mclaren in the previous season and actually had a rather good season overall, finishing third. I didn't do the last couple of rounds, I was on holiday, but it turns out that I finished third overall in Mclaren, which was a really pleasing result. TRL Lightning absolutely smashed the season. He won overall in the Mclaren, so he did really well. And to finish third, I'm really pleased with that. I'm going to try to continue in the same vein of form and see if we can have some good results for Mclaren once again. So they were actually saying before this season started, or before the last season started, that you could change your manufacturer. Turns out that's not entirely true. You can't actually change your manufacturer, so whoever you chose for that first season, the previous season, you're stuck with them for this one. But I think before the actual proper first counting season starts, then you can change. So the Nations Cup has properly started, so you've got counting rounds towards the World Tours, but the Manufacturers series here is not a proper counting series just yet, so it doesn't technically count really towards anything. It doesn't actually matter too much. I suppose you still want to race well, and it's always good practice. But sticking with McLaren, and we'll see just how well we can do. So the situation we are looking at here is the qualifying session. So at the moment, sitting in 18th place, which obviously isn't good. 18th out of 19. My current best lap 45.9, so just under a 46, which obviously isn't good. The pole position time 44.4, set by Dilster. Around the last couple of corners, we'll see just how much we improve. The splits have been good. We had a purple sector through the first split, and then a blue one through the second. So as long as we can continue in that sort of pace, we should be good. Coming up to the line then, crossing the line to go third, 4/10 off of pole position. Now that is better than I was expecting, I'll be honest, because qualifying is not one of my strengths. Turns out the third was where we're going to finish. No one else went on to improve, so really pleased with that. It sets us up nicely for the race. But before we start off with the race, we're going to kick off with the intro. So that was the trailer of the Rabbit DLC coming later in the year, but let's turn our attention back to the race. So we've got the Porsche 911 on pole position, followed by the BMW of Heiser, and then myself in the McLaren in third. Really pulled out of the bag on that lap. Honestly, that was one of my better qualifying laps I think I've ever done. So I didn't really make any glaring errors. Obviously it wasn't perfect, but really rather pleased with how it went. Starting third compared to maybe starting 10th, where I'd normally kind of start. Massive advantage. Let's see if we can translate that performance in qualifying into a good race. Into the back of Heiser through the apex to turn 1, braking a little bit too late, but we will stay in position. Immediately dropping back is the Porsche just behind. You can see just how close this race is going to be. I think it was about a second gap in qualifying down to about 13th, 14th place. And in this kind of hopper here, or this lobby, you're always going to have very close races no matter where you are in the field. So now that my driver rating is up to around about 61,000, that's the highest it's ever been. So we're going to be coming up against a higher calibre of player here. A lot of the names I recognise. In fact, I raced with the guy in fourth, Kieran won, raced against him in a practice session, and it was actually very close between us. So that kind of shows that I might be where I should be, or we're both where we should be. And we're both quite even on pace, so that could come up to be a close race, but we'll see as it develops. In terms of the strategy on the medium tyre, we're looking to do one stop. In the practice sessions I was doing, it looked like the one stop was the better and the easier strategy. Of course, the main problem with the one stop is you could possibly come out with slower cars in front of you and have to suffer behind them for a lap or two. So that might be the possible downside. We'll see how that develops. We'll worry about that when it comes to it. So through the final turn, looks like Dilster in the lead in the Porsche, already beginning to open up that gap, and he's actually well out of the slipstream range already. So he's had a very good opening lap. Heiser still just in front. I'm keeping up with him, which I'm very pleased about. As long as I can stick within that slipstream range, I should be okay. The Porsche behind, looking up the inside. So I'm not sure exactly what that was all about. Maybe defending, maybe looking up the inside of me. But it wasn't really on. He's lost a little bit of time there. So the gap behind now to 0.8. The gap ahead to 0.6. Again, just trying to keep it within that slipstream range. And we should be good to just to keep up with Heiser, basically. That's the main target. You don't really want to get him and let him get away at all. In terms of the fuel, should be okay. Again, in the practice I was doing, and it's always good to do a practice run of the race before we actually do the proper race. I actually had about 6% of fuel left without any attempt to fuel save. So fuel, I think it should be dead fine. It should be no problem at all. The main issue is just the tyres and how the grip begins to fall away. So coming down the hill through the penalty zone, of course, just avoiding penalties is such a benefit in these races. You can just look at the map and see how close the field is. We talked about how close the qualifying order is, and it's the same in the race. People can just follow each other really closely. Everyone's very evenly balanced. So you make one mistake or you get a penalty, that's really, really going to cost you. So you really just can't afford to be doing that at all. So coming out of turn number 16 into 17, long sweeping left, early apex on the power early. Go over to the left as much as you can, but then through the long right-hander of 18, you want to really keep it hooked up as much as you can with the curb. Look for that tarmac on the right-hand side before you accelerate through the fast sweeping left of 19 onto the main straight at the end of lap number 2. So the order very much the same as it was at the start. No one's really gone for the pass just yet, but you often get that with these races. It kind of turns into a stalemate, and then you're kind of waiting for things to develop later on in the race as people begin to have their tyres worn out or have to fuel save a little bit more. So things often sort of reach a crescendo towards the end and then build up to a climatic end. We'll see if that's going to be the case here, as Heiser still ahead, keeping up with him most certainly through the twisty section and really not letting him get away too much at all. Dilster again up ahead, opening up that gap by about 2 seconds now. 2 seconds, so he's having a comfortable race. We'll see if he's pushing too much on his tyres. At this point here, looking comfortable halfway around lap number 3 as we sweep around the long right-hander towards the hairpin. So the gap's still kind of even behind, opening up the gap slightly to the Porsche in 4th, so don't really have to worry about him at the moment. He's not within the slipstream range, so looking fairly comfortable. Now it feels like in this race, just really on the edge of making a mistake. It's a very easy track, I think, to get wrong, or just make one silly little mistake, just drop 2 wheels on the grass or something and spin yourself around. Heiser goes very deep, wider than he would have liked, and you can see just how much I gained through that corner. This might put him on the back foot, so you're kind of always building up to an overtake attempt. So I could go for a savage lunge into that turn. It's not really the right kind of corner. You just have to keep as close as you possibly can, and then maybe set yourself up for a move into turn 1, which is possibly the best overtaking opportunity on the lap, or maybe the hairpin. In the slipstream range now then, can we possibly go for this move? As we're really in that slipstream range, putting over to the right hand side, thinking better of it for now. I wasn't really alongside. It would have taken a very brave and optimistic move to get it dead right, and often you don't want to lose too much time. As I said, the order is so close behind. If you get it wrong, you might lose a couple of seconds, which is akin to suicide in this race with so many close people behind. So if you're going to go for the pass, you have to get it right. You don't want to make a mistake. And into the hairpin, going in a lot narrower than a lot of the other people, but keeping it tight on the exit and accelerating away. So firmly within the slipstream range. I think Heiser is struggling to get away from me. See again, they're turning in nice and early, gaining through the mid-turn. The BMW looking planted, but not quite able to pull away from me at this point. The McLaren actually a really good car. I was actually really worried before I started the previous season that choosing the McLaren was just going to be an absolutely horrific choice. But you know what? It's actually not too bad. I think McLaren are decent. They're kind of they're not the best, of course, but I think they're a solid choice. Could be worse. There are worse options out there for sure. So sweeping again through here, and through the right hand with the bottom of the hill, a little bit wide of the apex, and that is actually one of the harder turns, I think, to get dead right. And once again, it's one of those turns where I think you really do have to just commit nice and early, get into the apex early, and we should be okay. So lap 4 is coming to an end now. The tyres are beginning to wear out considerably, and beginning to really feel the effects of the lack of tyre wear, or the lack of tyre grip, shall I say, as the tyre wear increases. So you can see there on the exit of the final turn, sliding through the apex, still within the slipstream range, so still just hanging on here as we begin the 5th lap. So this is where the strategy begins to come into effect, I would suppose, because, well, you can't divide 11 exactly by 2 and have a whole number, because you're going to come out with 5.5. So you can kind of split your strategy here, go in at the end of 5 or go in at the end of 6. Typically it's better to go in earlier, get the undercut. We'll see how it pans out. I'm going to go in at the end of this lap though, because that is my strategy that I worked out from practice sessions. We'll see what everyone else does though, as we, or when we get to the pit lane at the end of this lap. Someone's already in, I can see on the map. And we're already down to 17 players. So 2 people have decided to bail out at this early point, but in these races you can do a race and you can still, there's 3 time slots, remember, so if your first race doesn't go too well, you've got 2 more chances to improve upon your result. So again, you can see they're turning in a little bit too late, losing maybe 2 or 3 tenths to Heiser, who, to be fair to him, despite the pressure, has been driving pretty much faultlessly, not really making any mistakes at all, not really making any openings for me to go for a move. As we come up towards the end of the lap, through 17 and towards turn 18 and 19. So I'm going to sweep into the pit lane here. So the time loss isn't too big in the pit lane, so we can afford to go for that pit stop. So coming out here, does the leader go in? No, he doesn't. Does Heiser go in? No, he doesn't. So the top 2 deciding to stay out for the time being. I go in onto the medium tyres, no need to add any fuel. So that's quite interesting. The top 2 deciding to stay out. I suppose they're thinking about the traffic. We'll see how the traffic pans out. Hopefully we don't come out into a big group. We'll see right now if that's going to be the case. So 8th and 9th go through and we slot into a gap here. Okay, so on the fresh tyres we are 2.5 seconds behind. It's Mr. Wi-Fi Password in 9th place. So we'll see exactly how that gap comes down. And I'm now 20 seconds or 21 seconds away from the lead. So, interesting developments. We'll see how this lap goes. This is the point where the race gets interesting. So the first 5 laps, not really much happening. Still really trying very hard to keep it under control and keep it consistent and without making mistakes. So those first 5 laps kind of looked uneventful, but really you're still trying to push as much as possible just to keep even with the other players. So gaining already 1 second behind. We've gained 1.5 seconds on the guys ahead. So of course these guys haven't pitted. They're on their 6th lap on this set of tyres. So they're going to be feeling the strain. The tyres are going to be dying of death as we come down the hill. We'll see just how little grip they have compared to my fresh rubber here. So Wi-Fi Password really deep there. And he bails over to the left hand side. I'm not sure if he's letting me through. I'm guessing he's just letting me through there. So Wi-Fi Password proving once again that he's a top guy. So now up behind Max Bailey in the Mclaren F1, so the fairly new car to the game. Dilster goes in from the lead and Heiser stays out, so that's very interesting. Heiser going for the no-stop strategy, and we're currently 16 seconds behind Heiser, and we've got 5 laps to try to reel that in at a rate of around 3 seconds a lap, or a little bit more than that, or 3.2 seconds per lap. Let's see if we can do that. It's going to be an interesting challenge. Max Bailey earning the brakes, and to be fair, I didn't really mean to go for that move, but it looks like it's actually turned out to be a decent move. He's going to come back at me though, and runs slightly onto the grass. I didn't really see him coming, but he's back up the inside towards turn 3. The 2 McLarens here of Group 3 are going to try to cut him back, just made contact a bit annoyingly there. And unfortunately, we're battling with someone we really don't want to be battling with. I perhaps could have gone for the lunge there, and it's lots of awkward contact. And to be fair, a lot of it is my fault. I'm going to the back of him and he can't really do anything. He's got no grip and it's not really his fault. He's going to have to look for the move coming up towards the hairpin. He must get a good exit here. We don't want to lose so much time. In fact, Kieran behind, you see him right there, he's caught right up. I had about 1.5 seconds or 2 seconds on him and he's caught right up as a result of all of this contact and nonsense at the start of this lap. Eventually we get through and hopefully we can just settle in ahead now as Kieran in the Porsche right behind there tries to settle in, but no, Max Bailey is going to keep the position, so that's going to let me get away slightly from Kieran as it's quite a crucial stage of the race as we're both fighting through the traffic and he still hasn't got past. Looking at the left hand side of the screen, Max Bailey's still behind. I'm opening up that gap very quickly. In fact no, Kieran has gone through now, but he's lost 1.5 seconds. I'm 1.5 seconds ahead of him. So up behind Magic Mike, again someone else who hasn't pitted just yet, so going for the no-stop strategy. A couple of guys going for the no-stop strategy gives you track position. It's very difficult to do. You do have to just drive really smoothly. But Magic Mike covers the right hand side, goes defensive. I'm going to go over to the left and we should be able to outbrake him going into turn 1 with the fresher rubber. And on the brakes we go. Yes, he just settles in behind. He knows it's not worth fighting and he settles in behind. So up into 4th place. Kieran's going to try to follow me through. And we have Cosmic just up ahead. We ideally need to get back into 3rd minimum. And then we'll see if we can catch up with Heiser. Dilster's pulled away as a result really of the fight with Max Bailey. That really didn't help us at all. And to be fair, a lot of it wasn't great driving from me. Did got the inside into turn 1, but could have defended and kept the position, but didn't quite manage to do that. So Cosmic here, this is lap number 9 now. So we've caught up with Cosmic, who has also gone for the no-stop strategy. So it's actually working out for some of these guys, but you know, for these last 2 laps, the grip is going to be absolutely horrendous. It's just basically going to be like driving on ice. As we slide up the inside here, there's not much you can do to really fight that. So I mean, on the 4th, 5th and 6th lap of the stint, it's bad enough, but these guys are on their 9th, 10th and 11th lap on the same set of tyres. So good luck to them as they really try to navigate the circuit with almost 0 grip. So this is the beginning of the 11th lap. Let's skip ahead to what really matters. Dilster's got himself back into the lead as expected, but Heiser is 5 seconds ahead, or less than 5 seconds ahead. On the previous lap we gained 4.5 seconds, so it's possible that we could reel him in. You can see him actually just up ahead there going through turn 3. We can actually see him. We have a visual reference of the driver we're trying to catch up with here. So back into 3rd, which is where I was before the pit stop phase started, but I'll be disappointed if I don't get close, or at least have a chance or a shot at going for this 2nd place. You see just how tantalisingly close he is, but we're running out of time as the gap now down to 3.5 seconds. I'm running out of time to get this gap down. My tyres myself on my own car are wearing down, but of course for him in the BMW they're going to be really horrible, almost 0 grip. As we've gone through the hairpin, there he is, he's well within sight, while we're running out of corners, but sadly for him it's the very twisty section at the end of the track, which is where that car is going to suffer the most. We're gaining even more. The gap was 5 at the beginning of the lap. It's now down to 2.3. We've cut it down by almost 3 seconds as we come up towards the last couple of corners on the race and of the final lap. Are we going to be able to keep up with him, catch up with him and go for the pass? It's getting very, very close indeed. With 1 corner left to go, I think he's just got this one in the bag. He's driven very well actually on the very worn tyres to keep that thing under control with no mistakes and without spinning out. Through the final corner, it's not going to be enough. The BMW holds on against the McLaren. I finished 3rd, which to be fair is where I started. I didn't lose any positions, so overall quite happy with that. So wow, what a race that was. It was, I mean, I didn't really do too much overtaking apart from the laps out of the pit lane. But my god, it was quite tense, really just trying to reel that guy in. And I think it would have been possible. It would have been possible without all the fighting with Max Bailey. Unfortunately, that kind of slowed us down a little bit, but half of it was my fault because I was tapping him through the hairpins when I could have just gone for the move. But there we go, 2,200 points. So again, a new record for me. That's the most I've ever got in one race. So very pleased with the result. Thank you so much for watching as always, guys. Let me know your thoughts. If you did enjoy the video, consider hitting the like button and subscribing for more. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.